Hi everybody, this is Garrett,
This is Ethan.
11 Bang Bang channel, and we have a Q&A today, and I'm just going to give you a quick rundown on what this is going to be. What I did is I went back through the last several videos we've had, and I took all the questions I could find out of the comment section, and I started with number 1 being the most recent as of tonight, and going backwards until I got to 20 questions, and before that was like 4 or 5 months ago, so I figured those questions are probably not relevant now anyway. So we have 20 questions here. We have a few channel update announcements before we get started here. Some of you have been wondering where I've been. I have had some things happen. I wound up in intensive care. I lost a lot of blood, and I'm still pretty anemic, but I was in intensive care for 4 days, in the hospital for 3. And so if I look a little pale, I'm still a little bit anemic, but I'm back, and that's why we're doing an inside video, because I just don't feel up to go into the range right now. And you tell us what you got coming up in the future for the month of June.
I'm going to be gone for a month doing Bradley things with the Guard. So, yeah, we got a few videos we're going to put out in that time frame that'll kind of help fill in some of the gap. There are some of our older videos, so the quality's not quite as good, but there'll be some stuff we'll put out during that time frame.
The month of June is basically going to be our off month, because like I said, he's going to be gone and the rest of us will be working harvest. So we have some stuff recorded up, but if you don't get us to answer, if we don't answer your comments right away, or we don't talk to you on the channel, it's not because we're ignoring you, it's because we won't be here. So anyway, on to the Q&A. We have 20 questions. Now I'm going to do my best to read these questions as they were written, and I'm pronounce the names of the people who asked them. But I did, on a lot of these, I did kind of cut down your comments and just dig the question itself out. That way we could kind of roll through this a little bit quicker. Alright everybody, we had a little mess up there with the camera, so if the angle's not the exact same, we're sorry, but here we go. Question number 1, are you ready?
I'm ready as I'll ever be. I ain't looked at these questions yet for a
So they're going to be as honest an answer as you can get. Some of these have already been answered in the comment section, some of them we haven't, so here we go. Number 1, Ernest Clements asks, what diameter drill bit do you use to drill a touch hole?
So we've used several different sizes. We started off with the original, and I can't even remember what that used to be. What was that?
1/16.
1/16 of an inch?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we went to a 5/64. And on the Fusée de Chasse, I even drilled it out a little larger, because I've seen several historical references of them actually drilling those out, larger for a better lock time. And so, yeah, it's usually a 1/16 to a 5/64 of an inch. That's usually pretty good. Yeah.
There are references, especially to natives, that I've seen where they will drill it out so large that they can pour the powder down the barrel, shut the hammer, and then shake the gun and get enough powder out of the barrel into the pan to ignite the main charge. But when you do that, you have to bear in mind the guy standing next to you is going to get a face full of flash, and you're going to lose a lot of pressure out of that bigger hole if you try to do something that big.
Not only the Indians did that, the Austrian military started doing that, and I believe, I'm probably going to be wrong here, but I think it's 1809 they did that so they could make reloading faster, and then they realized, oh wow, this actually does affect our accuracy. So yeah, there is that.
Alright, so hope that answers your question, Ernest Clements there. Alright, question number 2 by Kid Retro. Do you have to remove the breech plug, or do you just start drilling?
So I want to say that beforehand I would have definitely said, no, you don't have to remove the breech plug to drill your touch hole. However, there is a certain firearm we have here that is from military heritage, and when we started to drill that touch hole, we found that there was a hard spot in the breech plug, and we ended up breaking off a drill bit in it, and needless to say, that gun now has 2 brand new touch hole liners in it. Yes, it is a double barrel. So you can get away with it. I've gotten away with it on all but one gun, but if you want to play it safe, you probably want to remove that breech plug.
Question number 3 from Bull Hippo.
think I've seen this one.
How do you like shooting 1F? It's marked musket powder and no one else really shoots it.
So 1F, I don't know. It has its pros and cons. I can't. The pro is that for some reason I've noticed that the recoil seems lighter on it. I don't know why that is.
It's not building as much pressure.
It's probably, yeah, that's probably it. I've noticed the recoil is quite significantly lower. However, the cons are that I can't get it to hardly flash in the pan, and a lot of people will say that they probably can. I shot 1.5F all day long, my Swiss 1.5F, and it was firing all the time, and then I switched out to 1F, and I was having a terrible time trying to get it to fire. Not only that, I can't get it to flow out of my powder horn for nothing. So yeah, it's pretty good powder, but yeah, it has its downfalls.
If I was to make a suggestion to you, if 1F, a lot of times you'll go on places like Grafton Sun, and right now, especially in this pandemic, all you'll see is 1F and 4F. So if that's your options, use those two together, because if you load with 1F and prime with 4F out of a small priming horn or a brass primer, that tends to work really well for me. But I personally, in anything above 62 caliber, I would say we would go around here mostly with a 1.5F and possibly a 4F charge if you're having a little bit of trouble getting that fast ignition, fast lock time.
One more thing on 1F, you can always take, and as Robert Rogers talks about in his journal I've been reading about here lately, you can grind down your powder to make a priming powder. And I may do a video on that here in the future, but you can grind it down to a very fine powder to prime with. So if I had a choice between 1F and 4F, I would probably go with 1F because it is more versatile. I can always ground it down.
Alright, question number 4 from Justin G. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Justin J.I. Alright. He says, I noticed some black powder staining on my Military Heritage flintlock. What is the best way to remove black powder stains?
So when I first got into flintlocks, I was wondering the same exact thing, and I actually ended up reaching out to British muzzleloaders about this question. And what he told me was the traditional way to do that is to carry around a little bag of brick dust. That is what the British soldiers did in the 18th century. Now, what I do, because it works out just about a little bit better on these Military Heritage guns, is I'll use a little light steel wool, like a 4/0, or I may even, if I'm getting a little bit of more serious rust, I may even use a very, very, very fine polishing wet sandpaper and some oil.
And Justin G, by the way, if you're trying to shoot Pyrodex out of it, or prime the pan with Pyrodex, that will give you the absolute worst staining. You don't want to do that. That stuff's hard to get off too. A lot of people will say that you can just let it naturally brown that way, but with a lot of the India-made muskets, it seems like they get awfully spotty if you try to just let it naturally brown from flashes in the pan and things like that. Alright, number 5. Now this is a hard name to pronounce. Jabal Sadrowski. Alright, I hope I'm sorry if I butchered your name there. And he asks, did you refinish the stock on your Charleville?
Yes, I did. I went and I stripped all of the stain off. I used a chemical varnish remover, and that stuff that's on it is kind of like shellac. It looks alright, but it almost feels like somebody put plastic or paint or something all over the stock on those guns, and I just not a big fan of it. So I just put this varnish remover on there, and I went and took a card, and then I went and moved up to a wire brush, and I just brushed it all off. And then I went ahead and I put a coat of Minwax American Walnut stain on it. And then I went and I put on several coats of linseed oil, and I then went and I put on some Johnson's paste wax.
Okay, once again we have changed positions, battery ran down, and we just found out Duke Frazier's live tonight, so that means we got to hurry up and get through this. Alright, where did we end? Alright, battery died on, you finished your Charleville stock. Alright, number 6, Nautical Elk. Where do you get your French? Number 6, nautical elk. Where do you get your flints from?
So mostly I get my flints from Track of the Wolf. They're napped by Tom Fuller. They're English flints. I think they're like $2.48 a piece, but here lately they've been a little scarce to come by, so I've actually taken and went up to Fort Riley and got me some pretty big rocks and brought them home, and I've napped some of my own flints out of those. And they're pretty sharp, but they're pretty brittle too, so they tend to wear out pretty quick, but they usually fire really good.
Alright. Question number 7 is from Carl Reed. Any idea how long it takes a military heritage musket to ship?
So I've noticed that it all depends. Out of the probably, I think we bought 12 or 13 from them at least. Out of all the ones that we've ordered, they usually ship pretty quickly. There was one time whenever we ordered a gun and it said in stock when we ordered it, but then we didn't realize he never took the money out, but we didn't realize that it had went out of stock like right before we ordered it. It was really kind of a fluke deal, and that one, it was kind of a deal where it would have taken a little longer. But yeah, usually they're very quick to ship.
Alright, also from Carl Reed. Will your Charleville cartridges work in the 1795 Springfield?
Yes. Yes, they most definitely will. I'm pretty sure that at that time they were still using the same 155, 154 grain powder charge with the 648 or 65 caliber round ball. So yes, they will most definitely work.
Alright. We're through with that question. Alright. Question number 8 is from Doug Dukes. And this is stepping away from flintlocks a little bit. When stretching the hand on a Schofield revolver, what do you use to quench it in?
I was using some used motor oil. Water, a lot of people you'll see in the movie, they'll quench in water. Water is what I've been taught from an old blacksmith is almost too harsh, and you can tend to make little hairline fractures in the steel. So yes, we used motor oil.
Another one from Justin G. He's just got a new military heritage flintlock, fails to go off. Plenty of spark, no boom. Any ideas?
So, the reliability of the flintlock, it goes in stages, right? So, the first thing, if you didn't have spark, that I would be looking at is your flint to make sure that it's good and sharp. And if that didn't work, I would go and I would look at your hammer, or what a lot of you people nowadays call the frizzen, and I would take a file and I would try to see if the file skates. What I mean by skates is that the file doesn't dig into it. That'll mean your frizzen's hard. But you say you do have spark, so this is going to narrow it down to a few other things. One is it a windy day? I have had on occasion where wind will blow the spark away from the pan. What kind of powder are you using to charge with, or to prime with, excuse me? Like I said before, 1F, I've had a terrible time, but anything above that I can usually get to fire. Another thing is with the new military heritage guns is they still usually have a lot of machining oil left in the barrel. This was the problem I was having with the Fusil de Chasse here recently, and I was noticing that I'd shoot it and my pan would almost fill up with oil. So you can remedy that by doing like I did and just shooting it and shooting it and shooting it and burning the oil out. Or you can actually I've seen some people go and take acetone and use that to get the oil out of the barrel, to degrease the barrel, if you would. So
if worse comes to worse, you might have to pull your breech plug and clean it.
Yeah, or you can also, depending on how comfortable you are with machine tools, you can put in a touch hole liner, and that makes it, if you get a big enough one, you can actually go in there with a Q-tip and clean the oil out like that. I've done that on the Charleville. So, yeah.
I hope that answers your question. Moving on, number 10, Bull Hippo again. In the Traditions Kentucky Long Rifle video, are you using undersized balls or is the barrel coned? How are they loading so easily?
Yep, they were definitely undersized. They were 45 calibers. I found that, especially when I'm shooting a video and I'm not like hunting or something, whenever I'm wanting to get off a lot of shots fast and I'm wanting to have a good time while I'm shooting, a 50 caliber rifle, especially one that's not coned like that, I'll tend to use an undersized ball, and I still have pretty decent accuracy with it.
We're not shooting 300 yards in most of those
No.
videos, so 50 yards, 60 yards, a patched 45 caliber round ball usually will do you just fine, and easier on the ramrod, easier on the gun, easier on you.
And if I was, like I said, I'm not doing an accuracy test in that video like I was with the Charleville. If I was doing an accuracy test, I would get the properly sized, probably 49 caliber ball, and then a 1/10 of an inch patch.
Never mind the clicking in the background, that's the gunsmith over there. He is rebuilding a surprise for the Smith & Wesson, History of Smith & Wesson series. Alright, anyway, moving on. Question number 11. Now we're getting back into some older questions. This is on cap and ball revolvers. Stephen Lawson asks, on the 1849 video, he would love to see the 1849 Velocity. Do we have a chronograph?
Yes, we do have a chronograph, and if you've watched any of some of our older videos, I think the last one we tried to use it on before we about gave up on it was the Smith & Wesson. We had taken that chronograph and we had used it successfully before we started our YouTube channel quite a bit. However, something happened, and I think it may have been the Independence Day shoot where we tried to shoot through it with a Brown Bess at about 10 feet, and the concussion blew the chronograph away, and it really has not worked good ever since. So we need to get a new chronograph, but yeah, that's the reason why we haven't been doing that.
Alright, moving on. Question number 12. David Hughes. I think this one's addressed to me. This is a more recent one. Colt Dragoon. Why 44 caliber? Why not 45? Why? Well, David, the answer is it is a 45. But in that, and it goes back to the Walker. If you go back and study the U.S. government contracts, I believe it was January 6th or 7th of 1847 when Colt's first making the Walker with Eli Whitney III. The government contracts don't use terms like calibers or gauges, they use bore, and they call for an even 50 bore. And 50 bore just happens to come out to .453 if I'm correct. So it is a 45 caliber. There is a difference between the lands and grooves, and we'll get into it in another video, but people call it a 44, but it is a 45, and it always has been. The original contracts call for .453, so they were originally probably loading at .454 to 457 round ball in those Dragoons and Walkers. So yes, they are 45, and if you get a conversion cylinder, you can shoot cowboy load Colt 45 through the modern replica Dragoons and Walkers. I hope that answers your question, David Hughes. Alright. Okay, we're also still staying away from the flintlocks a little bit. Question number 13 is from Peyton Owen. What kind of ammo do you use in the Smith & Wesson Model 1? And I've seen this question posed several times, several different ways. The question always comes out, will I blow up my Smith & Wesson Model 1 if I use modern 22 short ammunition?
So, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say right here, when we shot that video, we, the beginning, I think it was
the fixing video.
The fixing video, we were using 22 short CBs, which are, if you know, they're a little lower powered 22 short. However, when we did the actual video on the gun, we went ahead and we pulled out the 22 caliber bullet.
Very carefully, by the way.
Carefully.
Don't grab the rim.
Yep. We pulled out the 22 caliber bullet, we poured out the powder, and we poured in, I think, was it 3.3 grains of 4F black powder, and we put a 22 caliber soft lead round ball on top, and then crimped past the kind of the curve of the 22 ball. So that is what we shot out of them. I would not suggest you shoot very high powered 22 short. I'm sure it can be done, but it's just probably not safe.
Needless to say, if you can get a hold of the cartridge some way in the middle of the cartridge, not on the rim, and you can take something and pull that original lead bullet out of there, it's very simple just to simply take and dump out the smokeless powder, replace it with black powder, and seat a 22 caliber round lead ball in there. That's how we did it for that particular gun.
Which is historically accurate.
Yeah,
for
3 grains with a 22 caliber round ball. I can't remember what the grains of the round ball were. Alright, anyway, moving on. Number 14 has been asked by several people. What is the song used in the Scottish Highlander pistol video?
So I can't remember what the first one was. It was just some, what I thought at the time was some copyright-free music that was supposed to be used to put on your YouTube videos, and then they copyrighted it. I'm starting to learn about that. But as for the second song, that is song.
That's the one everybody wants to know about.
That's the one everybody wants to know about. That is a song that we've known for a long time. It's called The Battle of Harlaw. Yeah.
Hope that answers your question. The Battle of Harlaw. It's a good song. Go look it up on YouTube. Alright, question number 15 is by Quentin Roberts. In the Matchlock video, what measure of powder and shot are you using? That's been a long time ago.
Yeah, that's been a while ago. Let's see here. I know we were using we were using 2F. Later on we switched to 1F. I think the first shot we fired out of that gun, we were shooting 150 grains of 2F. And then we switched over to 75 grains of 1F. It's a much milder load. And as far as balls go, we were shooting a 69 caliber lead round ball, same kind that you use in the Brown Bess. And as far as shot goes, we were shooting, I think, number 5.
Number 5, and it was around 1.5 ounces. I think it was pretty heavy load.
It was pretty heavy load, yeah.
Alright, so the Lone Rider asks, question number 16, do you drill the same size hole for a pistol as you would for a larger musket?
So, this one is kind of a trick question. You probably should drill about the same size hole. However, I did on my 1733 French model, I went ahead and I drilled a little bit of a larger hole because I've been reading a lot of books here recently. I've been reading The Flintlock, and I've actually noticed by looking at some of those pictures of the originals that a lot of the pistols have a little larger touch holes than some of the longer guns. So I went ahead and I drilled a little bit of a bigger hole in that one.
As a general rule, they're basically the same, is what you're saying?
As a general rule, what I'm saying is military heritage is they say to drill, what we said begin with, a 16th of an inch. However, if you look at pictures of originals, there are some with some actually pretty decent sized touch holes. So
start small, and if you think you need bigger,
you can go
move
bigger.
up.
And if you go too big, you can put a touch hole liner in it.
Yeah. Alright, question number 17. Giant Purple People Eater 97. You ready? That's a big question.
Alright.
Been looking at a few sorry about that, people. Been looking at a Fusilade Chase or a Chief size Northwest trade gun. Which would you prefer for small to medium sized game? I like the cow's hoof stock up on the Fusey, but I wonder if the barrel would be unwieldy in the brush compared to the Chief's Northwest trade gun. Chief's Northwest trade gun, I think, is a 36-inch barrel.
Yep. There are actually a lot of Fusey de Chasses that were cut down so they could be that short, but then again, if you're in a heavily wooded area, a Northwest trade gun might do the trick for you. However, I have found that cow's foot stock on the Fusey feels very, very comfortable to me. So, yeah.
I mean, I'm just the opposite. I prefer the Northwest trade gun.
Yeah.
So, it just depends on what your shoulder likes. Alright, number 18. This was by Shane Shaw. Which do you think is better, the DB-10 or the PSA-10?
I've never fired a PSA-10, but I do know that I can hit milk jugs at 700 yards with a DB-10 with M80 ball ammo, so pretty good rifle.
Alright. Okay, moving back to some flintlock stuff. Number 19 is by Paul Norton. He asked, did you have to tune the lock on the blunderbuss?
Nope.
No. It had a very, very heavy trigger. That can be fixed, but for the most part, on that video, you see us shooting it right off the bat, and a lot of people ask the question, do you have this trouble? Yes, right off the bat, because like we said earlier, we're still burning that oil out. After you get around 15 to 20 shots through it, they tend to become more and more reliable. But no, I don't think we've...
No, we never...
Outside of the Highlander pistol, maybe we tuned a little bit.
Yep, the Highlander pistol had to have a little work, but...
You know, we have had pretty good luck with locks from Military Heritage. Alright, question number 20. Asked by a lot of different people. Can you fire gravel, seeds, other odds and end objects out of military heritage muskets.
Yes. At your own discretion. Yes.
Don't do anything like pieces of steel or anything like that that'll
No.
tear up the inside of your gun.
At your own discretion, you can. It has also been done historically, such as the Battle of Breed's Hill, where they always talk about at the end of the battle the Americans ran out of ammunition and were throwing rocks. They weren't necessarily throwing rocks, they were actually loading rocks into their muskets and firing them at the British. So yeah, I don't shoot rocks out of my guns because I don't want to scratch the bores up, but in a pinch, if you had to, yeah, you could shoot rocks. We've shot candy corn, we've shot jelly beans, we've shot grass, we've shot hornet's nest, and we've shot marbles. So yeah.
Anyway, everybody, thanks for watching. That's all the questions we have, and our battery keeps dying. So stay tuned. We got more videos coming. Right now, Duke's on live, so we got to get over there and see what's going on. Thanks for watching. Bye.